Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk about web-safe fonts and web fonts. I'll address what is the difference between web-safe and web fonts and what are the advantages and disadvantages to both. Then I'll teach you how to download a web font and talk to you about why can't we just download any font from the internet to use in our websites, which is very important to learn. So let's just start off by talking about web-safe fonts. Now, web-safe fonts are fonts that are available on basically all computers. All computers have these fonts on them, which makes these fonts very universal. So some pros about web-safe fonts are they're reliable. And the fonts that we have here are Times New Roman, Georgia, Courier, Trebuchet, Arial, Verdana, Comic Sans, and Impact. So these are web-safe fonts, and they're very reliable because, like I said before, they're basically on all computers, which means that when a designer is designing the site and they want to use, let's say, Arial as the main font for the body text. It's very reliable because many computers have that font on their computer already, which means that the designer doesn't have to worry about their design being presented or displayed as something else that they didn't design, because it's very reliable. These fonts, if we design with these fonts, it's gonna show up on the internet in these fonts. So that's one thing about web-safe fonts, is they're very reliable. They load very fast. They load faster than web fonts, which is what we want. We don't want to wait all day just to see that we're on the home page. So that it's very crucial. And you know, we have other things that need to load on our websites, such as photographs, graphics, video, or sometimes music. So you know, having our fonts not take so long to load is very good for the user's time on your site. Now, and also these fonts are very high quality. They'll always be high quality, and they'll always look like how you designed it. Now, if we go on to the cons for web-safe fonts, you notice we have a pretty poor selection. Pretty poor selection in our designing with our selection of fonts. Now, it's typical to use Georgia, Trebuchet, and Verdana a lot on websites, as well as Times New Roman and Arial. But Verdana is very known, and you notice it's not so much decorative fonts, but they're like our style kind of fonts. And Impact, mentioned before in previous screencasts, it's very loud. It screams at you, and we don't want our users to, you know, be afraid and not want to come back to our site because all we're doing is screaming at them. We want it to be really soft, and that's where we would move on to Georgia in certain instances. Comic Sans. Comic Sans was made, it explains itself, comic. It was made for comic books, for children, very friendly, but it's not very used so much on websites to create a more modernist and professional look. Now, Courier, on the other hand, it's a typewriter font, and if you look at what I notice a lot too is in blogs that a lot of people are starting to use Courier because it's kind of a subtle, kind of old-timey feel font. And you know, if used correctly, Courier can be an actually pretty nice font, but it's not used as much in designing instructional websites, which is what we're aiming for. Now let's go on to web fonts. Now, web fonts, or a web font, is a font that is strictly on the web, and the user's browser will go out and find that font. So what you're going to do when implementing your font link inside your code is you would insert that piece of code into your CSS document. So in order to use a web font, you need to link to it correctly. So the web font is not on your computer, it's not on the user's computer, it's linked through the web to be viewed on your website. So let me just show you, so a pros about web fonts is it has a better selection. There's all kinds of styles, very different moods, different feelings that you can put on your website. So that's the advantage of web fonts. The cons is they take longer to load. Since it's being streamed through the internet, it's going to take a little longer than a web-safe font. Part of the quality is inconsistent. Sometimes, like I would notice right here, this font right here, it says selection, but you kind of notice that the C is a little distant from the T. It's like selection, you know. So those are just some things that you need to understand, that they're very inconsistent. You really don't know what's going to happen when you use it. And another thing about web fonts is the best web fonts or fonts usually cost money. So unless you're really willing to pay that money for that special font, I would try to stick to the free fonts that are available for you. So let me show you a couple sites that I found useful for getting some free fonts. So the first one is Google Web Fonts. And yes, Google does have their own font library. So all you would do is, so let's just go to Google. And let's go Google Fonts. And it's the first option, Google Web Fonts. And you just click on that. And here's the main website. Now, they give you all kinds of fonts that you can look at. You can also download them or stream them to your website through your CSS document. Now I'm just going to show you quickly how you can download one of these. So let's say I want the Philippa. I want to add this to a collection because eventually I'm going to download my collection. So I want the Philippa. I'm going to add that to my collection. Now it says one font family in your collection. So sweet, I have one font family. Now what if I want another one? I want the Ewert, and I'm going to push add to collection. So now I have two font families in my collection. And let's say I didn't want the Philippa anymore. I could just push that X and now I only have one font family. But let's say I want the Gligu or Glegu font. Add to collection. So now I have two. But the really cool thing about this is if you don't want the font anymore, just push this little X right over here. Now to download it, all you would have to do is go right up to this option, download your collection option. So you would just push that, and this little warning box will come up and it said you do not need to download the font to use it on your web pages. Instead, refer to the Use section. Now, when you would download fonts, especially for designers, if it's convenient and you want to refer to it often. It's kind of a hassle sometimes going back to the browser, looking at the font, not liking it, so then you have to go remove it, or just a big mess. But for most web designers, I like to use Dreamweaver. It has a quick live view option, sometimes consistent, sometimes not, but most times it is. So that's when I would download the font. I would download the font when I really want to see it. in action instead of keep going to the browser to see if it looks good. So that's when you could download the font. You're always free to download the fonts from Google Web Fonts. So that's one thing that's really great. And the thing about Google Web Fonts is you don't need to worry about the licensing. It's all free, free of use. Now, the next one is Font Squirrel. Now, Font Squirrel is also a commercial use free fonts website that designers they put their fonts on here that they designed, and you are free to use it however you please for commercial use free fonts, which is actually really nice. And I'm just going to read this little paragraph. It says, free fonts have met their match. We know how hard it is to find quality freeware that is licensed for commercial work. We've done the hard work hand selecting these typefaces and presenting them in an easy to use format. Here are some of our favorites, and then they just list theirs. Now, in order for it to be used online, you would have to look for this little icon right over here. So let's say if there wasn't one, if I can find one. Okay, maybe not. Oh, right here. Okay. So say I want to use this one, but I want to use this one for my online. Well, I can't because it's not giving me the option for that. So, you know, that's just one thing, so your little disadvantage there. You want to look for the fonts that have the option that is going to let you use this on your website without worrying about the licensing and laws and copyright. It's just a whole big mess you need to learn about later. So I would stick to using Google Web Fonts and Font Squirrel. Now, I'm just going to show you something real quick. Now, say sometimes, you know, I usually don't do these in this video, but I'll just try to explain it real quick. Say I want to use this and just quickly. So I'll just push the quick use button. I'll scroll down, and this is the coding that you're going to use for your link. This is what you insert into your code, and then it flies in the stream of the internet, and then it shows up on your browser. So how would we put this in our code? Now, a simple example that I'll show you is this. So if we look at this, this is just a simple HTML setup. Now here's the link. It goes right under the head. Here's the link right over here. And then I usually use a style, a CSS external sheet, but for this demonstration, I just made a little style tag section in here inside the header, so it would work. I put a little style to it. So this link is for the play ball font. So what I would do to make it work is in my CSS coding, I'll go font family, single quote, play ball, single quote, comma, serif. And then whatever styles in my body, I would just write something in my body tag, and I'll show you what I got, which is really, really neat. So I'll show you what I got. I got that. So here I showed you I wrote sample and play ball font. And I got that, which I was really excited about. And it is a font. It's not a graphic or photograph. It's all font. So I was really excited that it worked. So I encourage you to mess with different fonts and see which ones work best for you in your design. And let me go back so you can see. Remember, if you have any questions, comments, or feedback, please feel free to leave your comments below. Thank you.